Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to this week's episode of the Dana Buckler Show. My name is Dana, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jason Waters. Jason, how are you today, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. I'm a little bit nervous about this one, but I'm looking forward to it.
This one required a little bit of homework.
Holy hell, did it ever? Yeah.
And I'm just going to say it right now. Like, I put a couple posts out on social media letting people know, hey, we're going to do an episode on sequels, greatest sequels, worst sequels. I expect to get a few responses. We got well over 100.
I didn't delve into your past responses, but when I was going through them, I'm like, this is insane. Like, people have serious opinions about this.
They really do.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, when I was going, and we're going to go through all of them throughout this episode, but I have to tell you, like, going through some of them, like, the light bulb went off a couple times. Like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that movie.
Yes.
I forgot about that. Oh, yeah, that's definitely making my worst list.
And there were some that were like, well, maybe it's terrible, but I've never seen it.
And then some of them I'm going to probably defend.
Yeah.
There's probably going to be a few that I'm going to defend.
Yeah, I think it's going to go.
And I want to give a quick. I'll wait. I was going to give a quick shout out to Ryan Copeland. I know you're listening, but I'll wait till we get to his response because he posted one, and I was like, really? I don't even think I'm like, I don't even think I know you anymore. And he's like, oh, I said it was the wrong one. I'm like, I don't even think I know you anymore. So if you haven't figured out by the title of this episode, this is going to be just a fun conversation about the best sequels and the worst sequels. In the interest of keeping this at a somewhat reasonable length, this episode, I have opted to not do a list, just add commentary with Jason's list. Although I will throw in a few here and there if I feel like they have not made anyone's list. Yes. So Jason, I think let's get the greatest sequels out of the way because I think a lot of people are going to be listening to this really for the worst sequels discussion. And there's going to be, I have not seen your list, but I will say that there's going to be a few that I 100% know are on your list. There's going to be a few, but I imagine there's going to be a few surprises.
I hope so.
So, without further ado, we're going to start with your 10 greatest sequels.
Can we start with some of the ones that didn't make it?
Yes. Okay. Let's do some honorable mentions.
Okay. So again, and I'll just blanket apologize because this is saying that this is your favorite sequel versus my favorite sequel. We everybody lives in different worlds, and what you like, I don't like. I'm a fan of comedy, drama, and horror. There's people who are on the opposite end, just drama only. That is what decides it. So my honorable mentions.
Here we go.
Lord of the Rings, Two Towers.
Okay, yeah. So as longtime listeners will know, I just recently dove into the other sequel trilogy, if you will, the one that was hotly debated on Clerks 2. Pleasantly surprised by the actual amount of practical effects that were used in those Lord of the Rings movies versus the CGI bonanza that became the Hobbit trilogy. So totally get that.
Yeah. And Return of the King, which won all of the awards, not my favorite.
Yeah.
So
super long. Theatrical cut, super long.
Ends 2/3 of the way through, and the rest is just, pomp and circumstance. Well,
yes. Randall had it right. Definitely. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
You mean to speed through the other ones?
Yeah, let's. Yeah. Okay. For the sake of time, I won't offer extended commentary on every one of those. Okay.
Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah. So stop just for a moment.
Okay.
So Good, Bad, and the Ugly is part of the Man with No Name trilogy, which is a fistful of dollars for a few dollars more, and then the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Correct.
Yes.
Great movie.
Great movie. Not my top 10.
Okay.
Desperado.
Okay. Moving on.
Which also makes one of my misses on the other side. Back to the Future 2.
Okay. Yeah.
Loved it.
Saw it in the theater. Yeah.
Paddington 2.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to say right now.
I know it's going to piss some people off. Not in my top 10.
No. Yeah. Again, I didn't make a list, but when I was kind of putting one together, easily top 5 for me.
Okay.
I love Paddington 2.
Lethal Weapon 2.
Yep, perfect. Yep, good.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
Sequel to.
Nice recovery from European Vacation.
Yes.
Absolutely.
A step above, I believe. The Color of Money.
That's a sequel to The Hustler. I love that Paul Newman is in that.
It was a setup for Tom Cruise, but
It's an often overlooked Tom Cruise movie that came out right in that legend, Top Gun, Color of Money time period. So
it was a setup, a veteran actor with him to promote his career. My last one / last two, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan.
Okay, so
much better than the original Star Trek.
Yes, and
leaps and bounds.
Spoiler alert for when we go through a lot of the Twitter mentions, that one's going to come up a whole hell of a lot.
And I think the reason it comes up so much is not so much that this was it's a great movie and it sets up the next 2 to 3 movies.
Yeah.
But the first movie was so friggin' terrible. And everyone expected it to be just, you take Star Trek from the small screen to the big screen and it's going to be magnanimous. And it sucked big time.
It's interesting because I'm listening to the new Roger Avery, Quentin Tarantino podcast. Forgive me, I can't remember the name of it, Video Archives or whatever it is. But they were just doing an episode on Moonraker, and they were talking about how when Star Wars came out in 1977, it just changed the game forever. And every studio was looking at what their upcoming releases were, and they're like, we don't have anything that even touches this. So it took every studio about a year to put out their space movie.
Wow.
And so cool. 79 is when Star Trek the Motion Picture comes out. So I think one of the reasons why it was such a letdown was it's coming off the heels of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And like Moonraker was the James Bond Star Wars. And again, I'm not plagiarizing. I'm going to give full credit to Quentin Tarantino and Roger Avery. They were just having this discussion, but I just happen to completely agree with it. Of course, they made the case, and I agree with them, that the best space movie that came out in 1979 was, of course, Alien.
So that leads us in my top 10.
Let's do it.
All right. Coming in at number 10 with a 97% Rotten Tomatoes and 90% Metacritic score is Mad Max Fury Road.
Mad Max Fury Road. All right.
Which is the 4th entry into the Mad Max canon.
All right. And I just want the record to show I have no notes in front of me. So I'm going to say dates and stuff and years. I might get them wrong.
This is 2015.
No. Yeah, I was going to say 2015, directed by George Miller. That's interesting because I saw Fury Road in the theater. Mind-blowing. But the case could be made that Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior, is also a phenomenal sequel.
Yes. Mad Max 2 is amazing. And this is the only thing you can compare it to.
Yeah.
And maybe it could be the distance in time, but the character development in this one was so amazing.
And as of recording this in August of 2022, they have begun production on a prequel, Furioso. Prequel.
Oh, really?
They have. I don't believe Charlize Theron is starring it, but I could have my information wrong. But I know because I saw an Instagram post where it said now filming. So,
but just the Wasteland and just having seen the first 3 films, because my mother was a Mel Gibson. That was her guy, and we always watched those movies. And Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, which played on HBO for years and years, it's still one of my favorite movies.
Thunderdome's interesting because growing up, I was always like, that's the lesser Mad Max movie. But now, watching it through adult eyes and a massive appreciation for practical sets and tactile things, I'm like, no, it's actually a pretty damn good movie.
And back then, who would have thought to cast
Tina Turner?
Yeah. I mean, back then, I'm sure everyone was like, this is the worst idea ever. And as the film progresses, it just becomes a better and better choice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And great theme song.
Yes.
Great theme song.
My number 9, which will again probably piss some people off.
Okay.
And I've vacillated on this one between 2 movies in the series.
Okay, that's good.
This is going to be Mission Impossible Fallout.
Oh, okay, interesting. Okay, so that's the latest Mission Impossible.
That is the latest. I would say the one that has the most action, the most fun in it is Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol.
Yeah.
But having rewatched both of those in the last 2 weeks, Fallout is so much deeper and darker, and knowing what's coming in the next few movies, I think Fallout has a bigger impact on the overall series.
I raced to the IMAX theater to see Fallout. And that scene where Tom Cruise is doing the halo jump.
Yes. With Henry Cavill.
And when the lightning strikes Henry Cavill, the noise in the IMAX theater made me spill my popcorn. It was startled me. I was so not ready for it. That's I like all the Mission Impossible movies. 2 is probably the outlier for me. But if pressed real quick, I'm gonna lean more towards Ghost Protocol. Just that entire sequence on the Burj Khalifa to me is just so money.
Just like you can't stop sweating,
and you know,
like your hands are sweating.
He's really doing it.
He's really doing it.
And to me, that's Mission Impossible is one of those rare franchises where even 2 has redeeming qualities. Where there's not a bad movie in the lot.
No, and so looking critic wise. Ghost Protocol has a 93% Rotten Tomatoes and a 73% Metacritic. Fallout has 97 and 86.
Yeah.
So not that I was looking at those because there's quite a few movies I love that don't meet those criteria.
Okay.
Number 8, this is a movie you probably have not seen.
Okay, that's interesting.
Little outfit called Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun Maverick.
It's a sleeper hit.
I've heard something about it. This is a foreign movie. It hasn't had its U.S. distribution.
Yeah, it's a New Zealand film that came out.
I asked myself again if I was making this list, where would Maverick fall on this list? And suffice it to say, it would make my top 10 easily. Where on my top 10, I don't know because we haven't lived with it long enough yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, obviously, it's my favorite movie in years. So I totally get that. Love it. I mean, you've seen it 3 times. I've seen it 4
times.
You've seen it 4 times.
I've
seen it 3 times. And
all right, coming in at number 7. This is one that's probably not on your list.
Okay.
100% Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, okay.
92% Metacritic.
Okay.
Toy Story 2.
Okay, so what? Not on my list, but love all the Toy Story movies.
So I almost had a tie between Toy Story 2 and Toy Story 3 because they're superior to the original. The original set so many standards. I remember going to see that back in the theaters when I was in high school. At the same time, movies like Aladdin were coming out, and you're going, "This is the future of film." So Toy Story set the original bar, and Toy Story 2, which is sad, it's hopeful, it delves into so many themes of childhood, of growing up, of dealing with the future of you being obsolete. It's a very touching movie.
Okay, yeah, no, perfect, yeah. Like everything on your list is not. I have not once go, really? That man? So I again, and I kind of figured that was going to be the case. Yeah. Okay, all right,
so we're gonna go into the stuff that we all know is coming up.
All right, perfect.
I hope I have one in here that'll surprise you.
All right, go ahead.
I hope there's one. So coming in number 6, 94% Rotten Tomatoes, 82% Metacritic will be The Empire Strikes Back.
All right, that's going to make a lot of people's number 1 list. There's an argument that could be made that it's the best Star Wars movie made. Probably would have made my top 10, but I can't say for certain.
So having been, the current generation having the ability to view it as the first 3, the middle 3, and the final 3 now, there's probably an argument to be made across the board. But when we grew up,
yes,
it was the 3. It was the original trilogy.
Much like you and I can be hit with a nostalgia bug when it comes to movies. We can be definitely, there's so many movies that came out in the 80s that I'm like, it's amazing. And then people watch it and they're like, what was that? And I'm like, oh, nostalgia took over. For me, unfortunately, what's happened with a movie like The Empire Strikes Back is its greatness has been diluted by the nonsense that's been coming out over the past few years. It's Star Wars, the product, the brand has become so diluted. I was 2 when the movie came out, so I didn't see it in the theater.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine what that experience must have been like for the big reveal in that movie. Like, people must have lost their mind. But unfortunately, for me, like, I'm so over Star Wars now because, they've turned it into Marvel.
I figured you would be that way. So my thing with Empire still is if you set it in that original 3-film trilogy,
Yes.
the first film I do not like. New Hope.
Are you diluted by the special edition version of A New Hope?
I have the original VHS trilogy copy before George Lucas came in and decided to enhance everything.
Yes.
I did not like A New Hope at all. I love.
Well, can I stop you just for a second here? Because this is interesting. You've never liked A New Hope?
I've never liked A New Hope. Still to this day, if it's on, I'm
Even
nope.
as a child, the first time you saw A New Hope, you didn't like it. That's interesting.
No, because Luke is a whiny little bitch.
Wow. I got to tell you, that's really interesting. I have to say, and I have to say this, I'm surprised by this, not because I don't respect your opinion. Of course I do, but we're the same age, essentially.
Yep.
And growing up, like everybody my age, we were apeshit over that movie.
Yep.
And I don't remember anyone ever saying they didn't
I don't like
that
New
movie.
Hope. I don't like Phantom Menace. And
Well, I
what
agree
was
with you.
the second, the one with
Rise of Skywalker?
Rise of Skywalker?
The Last Jedi?
I hated the Rise of Skywalker because it's the same thing. I'm like,
Solo, a Star Wars movie?
It's a New Hope all over again. Like,
The Book of Boba Fett?
yeah. So what I loved about Empire was it delved into the characters. It delved into Han and Leia and their relationship. It delved into Luke and Darth Vader and their relationship. It was the emotion in it because at the time, in every trilogy, the first movie is exposition, it's introduction. The second movie is tragedy.
Yes.
And the third movie is resolution and hopefully, positive resolution. So the second movie is always going to be the one that has the most trauma, the most tragedy, the most emotion to it. And that's what Empire was.
I agree with everything you said there. I'm still processing the don't like the New Hope one.
I don't like the New Hope.
That's all right. What do you think about Return of the Jedi?
I love Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Of course,
I don't like the, oh God, what are they called? The little
Jawa, the Ewoks?
Ewoks.
Yeah.
I've never liked the Ewoks though.
You're not alone on that
They
one.
creep me out.
Yeah.
Not that I dislike them. They just it's.
You're not alone.
They're creepy.
You're
little,
not alone.
Well, it's because of what's the Stephen King movie with the little demons that put their fingers over your nose? God, what's it called? Stephen King had a movie like this girl sleeping and like this little demon troll puts. I don't know.
Oh, a Cat's Eye?
Yes.
Cat's Eye. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, came out of nowhere on that one.
No, sorry. Yeah, they reminded me of those.
That's okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. Okay.
So anyways.
All right. Well,
No more Star Wars movies on my list.
It goes without saying, though, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, not directed by George Lucas, not written by him. Yep. It's based on a story by him, but written by Lawrence Kasdan and directed by Irvin Kershner.
Yeah.
Two very talented people.
Yes.
So, and it shows. It shows on screen. Return of the Jedi was directed by Richard Marquand, who was basically the George P. Cosmatos director. When you need a director that's just going to follow orders.
Yes. Tell me what to do, boss.
Tell me, yeah. He's one of the Stallone had one of those guys, George P. Cosmatos, Rambo 2, Cobra, and then he was brought on for Tombstone.
Yes.
Okay, so Kurt Russell could direct the movie. So, all right, I'm sorry, we spent way too long on that, and that's my fault. All
right, we're breaking into the top 5 now.
Top 5. Let's do this.
So this is a top 5 that my number 5 is one that probably most people I think put on their number 1.
Okay.
So that's Godfather 2.
Yeah.
My number 5.
This is going to bounce between 1 and 2 with me, as far as like top 1, top 2. The original Godfather is a perfect movie from start to finish. The Godfather Part 2 does what I think has only happened a couple times in history, and that is take a perfect movie and make that movie better.
Yep.
And then make this one even better. Like your appreciation level for the original Godfather goes up because this is not, this movie is not a cash grab. Of course, the studio wanted a sequel, but the love and care that went into making this movie, this is one whole story.
Yep.
From the two movies are one whole story.
Well, that's what I love is because this was, maybe it wasn't originally planned a trilogy, but came out as a trilogy.
Yeah, but I've got some thought. We'll get
I
to
would
that.
love it because I still have not watched that.
But I know why the third one was made, and it was not because this was a planned trilogy.
Okay, this is even better than. So, what you always get in the first one is just that the background. You get here's where it came from. Here's what's the driving factor in this entire series. But you didn't get that in the first one. The first one was going to be just this standalone badass movie. 2 follows it takes that background, the introduction from the first one, and blends it in with what's happening in the current situation.
Absolutely.
So good.
There is a cut. It came out like 1988, somewhere between 88 and 92. I don't remember, called The Godfather Saga, which what they did was they recut the movie in chronological order.
Ooh.
So it starts off with all the De Niro stuff and then goes into The Godfather, then goes into The Godfather Part 2. And it's called The Godfather Saga, I believe it's what it's called. To briefly touch on Godfather Part 3. So by the late 80s, Francis Ford Coppola, who really liked to self-finance his own films, he liked the George Lucas. He wanted to take the George Lucas approach. Lucas funded the Star Wars movies on his own. Obviously, he made hundreds of millions of dollars doing that, but it inspired Coppola to do the same thing. Unfortunately, Coppola's movies were never very successful in the 80s. Peggy Sue Got Married, not that successful. The Outsiders, great movie, not that successful. Tucker, A Man in His Dream, not that successful. All good movies.
Yeah.
So he's highly in debt. He's highly in debt by the mid-80s.
He's the M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah, he's really in debt.
Yeah.
And Paramount comes to him and says, well, we can cover those debts, but we want a Godfather Part 3.
Aha.
So that's kind of the genesis of how that film came to be, which was very maligned when it came out. Although I do want to point out, was nominated for a Best Picture.
3 was?
3 was nominated for a Best Picture.
Because I
and
was
this
watching
is the
online.
same year as Goodfellas, Dances with Wolves. So I have seen Godfather 3 4 or 5 times in my life.
I got a single viewing of that. And
Famously, Winona Ryder was supposed to play Mary Corleone. She dropped out days before, and so Coppola put his daughter Sophia, who was just wasn't a seasoned actress, has gone on to become an amazing filmmaker. But I think Godfather 3 deserves a reevaluation. It wouldn't make my list of worst sequels if I was pressed to put one together.
No, and I kept seeing a lot of people putting that on there, like best Godfather 2, worst Godfather 3.
So I think when you look at Godfather 3, like a lot of love and care went into making that movie. I mean, it's an epic film. Yeah. Godfather 3, as within a world where the first 2 don't exist, people are going to go lose their mind over it.
Yeah.
So All right.
Coming on to number 4 now.
Okay.
98% Rotten Tomatoes, 84% Metacritic score.
Okay.
That'd be 1986 Aliens. James Cameron.
Yeah.
My number 4.
Your number 4?
My number 4. I know a lot of people had it as their number 1.
Sure.
And I'll tell you why it's my number 4.
Okay.
The first one was amazing.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott did a fantastic job with that movie. They spent the first nearly half of the movie building up the suspense to finally getting to what these creatures are, how to defend against them, and how basically just number 1 was how to escape.
Yeah.
Number 2 was how to fight them and how to destroy them. And James Cameron did such a fantastic job with this movie.
The first Alien movie is more a horror movie than it's definitely a sci-fi horror movie. And it has some pretty graphic scenes in it, but it takes its time.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about
it builds a suspense.
They land on the planet. They search. Kane gets the face hugger on it, comes off. Everything's good. And then from the moment the chest burster comes out, all bets are off, but you barely – it's one alien. It's one xenomorph. You barely see this thing in the entire movie. And then along comes Aliens, where it's hundreds, if not thousands of them.
Oh, my gosh.
And that whole sequence when Ripley comes upon the queen alien.
Yes.
That's all puppeteering, and it looks amazing.
Yes. And, Netflix has a really great, how the movie was made background on that, but just there's comedy relief in it with Bill Paxton. Right. There's so much action in it, so much more action than before, where the last time you had miners and science officers dealing with this, and this is just Marines ready to kick ass and take charge.
What James Cameron does better, and I'm going to make a bold statement here. What James Cameron does better than any filmmaker out there, everybody's paying attention now when I said that, is it doesn't matter if it is a bit character who has one line. Every character in a James Cameron movie is interesting.
And he is a perfectionist in making them interesting.
Every character in Aliens, from Gorman to Paul Reiser to Lance Hendrickson to, Jeanette Goldstein's character, every single one of them, you're happy to spend 20 minutes with this character.
And it's the development of that character's narrative. Like, all right, you're going to love this character, and here's why. You're going to hate this character, and here's why.
Hot take. I love Sigourney Weaver. I love her character. The least interesting character in Aliens is her.
That's interesting. Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, like, I want to spend more time with Bill Paxton.
Yeah.
Like, and Michael Biehn. Like, so yeah. I mean,
that's a great point.
So, and when I say the least interesting, that's like saying it's an amazing movie. She's amazing in it, but she is almost overshadowed by the personalities that are surrounding her.
Just the fact that the studio did not want to make it, they fought against them to make it. They had to battle and grapple to get this movie into theaters, and then when it finally did, it was just vindication. Like,
the union guys at Pinewood Studios wanted nothing to do with James Cameron.
They walked out twice?
Yeah, and he finally, and when they did the last day of wrapping, I haven't seen the documentary, but he was kind of like, fuck you guys, I'm out and I'm never going to work with you again.
That was, I think, one of the quotes on that Netflix series. He's like, here's the best thing about this movie. It's amazing. It's going to last for centuries, and I never have to see any one of you fuckers ever again.
That's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yep.
That's just a drop the mic moment.
And it was a very successful movie, and it's amazing, and it still holds up, and people still talk about it. So, all right, good. All right,
we're moving to the top three here.
Okay.
Top three, number 3, 2008.
Okay, I already know.
94%.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes.
Directed
84%.
by Christopher Nolan.
Directed by Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
Movie is
The Dark Knight.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so
what more can we say about this?
We did a whole episode on the Batman franchise. We talked about it. I'm practical. I'm smart enough to recognize that I probably rewatch The Dark Knight Rises more than I watch The Dark Knight, but even I'm smart enough to know that The Dark Knight is hands down the best comic book film and easily the best Batman movie ever made.
Easily. And I rewatched my top 3 just today.
Okay.
Heath Ledger, and I hate to say that it's been enhanced by the fact that he died before the movie came out, but the way he portrayed the Joker was just, it was brilliant. He deserves every accolade you could give out there for him.
Isn't it interesting? And it's got to be killing Kevin Feige over at Marvel. But isn't it interesting that the Joker character has won 2 Academy Awards? Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes.
So in the realm of comic book films which are never taken serious by the Academy. Remember, there was this big outcry that Spider-Man No Way Home wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Get the fuck out of here.
Get out of here.
Get the fuck out. But it's got to kill Feige over at MCU. It's like, where's our Academy Award for our performance? Why didn't RDJ get one for Endgame? You know. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm going off topic, but enough said about that. I get it. It's amazing.
No, it's fantastic, and the more I rewatch it, the more every single one of the characters comes through, and just
and again,
there's not. It's a long movie, but there's not a dull moment.
Not once.
No.
So that's good. All right. So that was your number 3.
That was my number 3.
All right, number 2.
Number 2. You want to guess it?
Terminator 2?
Terminator 2.
Was that right?
1991, 93% Rotten Tomatoes.
And there's not much that needs to be said about Terminator 2. It's
another James Cameron.
Another right down to the guys in the biker bar, interesting characters across the board. Yeah, like this is a movie that I revisit every year.
Easily.
Sometimes a couple times a year.
Yeah.
For a movie that's 2 hours and 20 minutes long, also moves along, very interesting.
Action-packed.
And it's the introduction of what you can really do with CGI, but the practical stunt work in the movie is still on screen. And there's still some incredible jaw-dropping moments that were not all done on a computer.
Yeah, very true. And I think also what I really got out of that, because I remember watching, back in the day, seeing all those special effects, the drama in there too.
Yeah.
I mean, the interaction between characters, it's heartfelt. There's not a scene that's wasted in the entire movie.
I agree. Well, we're
Number one.
We're at your number one. I have no idea.
Really?
You've checked a lot of boxes already.
This is my kind of sneaky number one.
Okay, because you did say it was going to be all right. So give me a hint. Give me the year it came out.
Oh, I can't give you the year it came out because that would give it away.
Okay. Well, John, gosh. Okay.
So here's what I'll tell you. The movie that it was the sequel to came out in 1986.
Okay, that's interesting.
It was directed by Michael Mann. 1996.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, okay. I know. I figured it out. Everybody relax. Dana's good. I still got it.
So for those who have not figured it out,
Okay. The movie came out in 1991.
1991.
It won the Big Five Academy Awards: Best
did.
Picture, Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress, Best Screenplay.
Yep.
Okay. Written by Thomas Harris.
Yep.
Okay. If you haven't figured it out yet, it stars one Jodie Foster, one Anthony Hopkins, and that is The Silence of the Lambs.
That is correct.
And the 86 movie he is referring to is Manhunter, directed by Michael Mann.
Which, if you have not seen that,
is excellent.
it's a great movie.
They did a remake in 2003 called Red Dragon.
They did.
Manhunter is the far superior movie.
Manhunter's much better. And then they did Hannibal.
2000.
No, wait, sorry.
Hannibal was 2000. That was directed by Ridley Scott.
No, what was it that came after?
They did
So it was
Hannibal.
Green?
Oh, they did Hannibal Rising.
Hannibal Rising.
Which is
Yeah.
awful. That's a cash grab. It's the prequel of how Hannibal Lecter became Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah.
The TV show Hannibal, far superior.
The NBC version with
far
Mads
superior.
Mikkelsen. Oh my God.
Here's the thing about Silence of the Lambs, okay? I probably would not have even thought to put it on my list till you mentioned it, because I guess I don't think of it as a sequel.
That's what. So if you rewatch it, it has. I mean, Hannibal Lecter figures. I mean, he's a major figure in this. He probably spends 15 minutes on screen, but also what he does, behind the scenes with the the antagonist on this. He's mixed in completely. All of the main characters in there reappear in Silence of the Lambs, with the exception of Will Graham, William Peterson. But it is the sequel to.
Correct. Red Dragon was the first book, and then so you're right. By every definition, this is not a trick. This is not a gotcha.
It's a little bit of a. It's one of those like, come on.
It's a true sequel, but I would not have even thought of putting it on my list if you hadn't mentioned it. But here's the thing about Silence of the Lambs. Here's the thing about Hannibal. Here's the thing about Red Dragon. Well, let's just talk about Silence of the Lambs, okay? Because I saw Hannibal in the theater, and I'm still trying to recover from that. That's Ridley Scott. God, that's the same year that he did Gladiator. He did Gladiator.
Did he do both in the same
Gladiator
year?
and Hannibal in the same year. Okay, first let's mention Silence of the Lambs. Okay, it is a disturbing movie to watch.
The only horror movie to ever win Best Picture.
That's correct. Not the only one to be nominated, because Exorcist was nominated, but it is. I don't get excited about. Let's watch Silence of the Lambs. I do the dinner.
I do actually.
I do the dinner in a movies, and
no one wants to watch. Yeah, you
were you there? Were you didn't come? Did you come for Days of Thunder?
No.
Okay,
that's not a good movie.
So you weren't.
Sorry.
No. So Days of Thunder, I'm in there, and there's the usual crew of people are in there. So there's some new faces in there, but I'm sitting there going, well, I need some help figuring out the October slate. I want to do some scary movies, blah, blah, blah. And somebody puts their hand up and said, how about Silence of the Lambs? I'm like, you do know everyone's eating like during these things, right? I said, no.
Like the scene where he jerks off on Jodie Foster's face.
Yeah.
Like
no.
Should we do the salad course there?
Yeah, like we're just not going to do this. Yeah. So I don't think I've seen Silence of the Lambs in 20 years because I don't want to.
You need to.
I respect how good it is, but
I
it's just,
rewatched it today and I was blown away.
Maybe I need to watch it through 44-year-old Dana's eyes because I was probably in my 20s when I saw it.
Oh my God. If you haven't seen it recently, I rewatched it this morning. It holds up.
Oh, I have no doubt that it holds up. It's just like, and then Hannibal, forget it. That's one and done for me.
It gets, so after Silence of the Lambs, the rest of those, they can move into somewhere in the category of worst sequels.
Yeah.
Don't need to see them. But Silence of the Lambs, AFI's number one villain of all time is Hannibal Lecter.
I get that.
AFI's number one hero or heroine of all time, number 6, is Clarice Starling.
Okay. Excellent. Top 10 list.
Thank you.
Of the greatest sequels. So what I want to do now is I want to, hang on just a second here, all comments. Okay. I put a post out on Facebook under the Facebook, The Dana Buckler Show, which is a private Facebook group, which there's a link in this episode's show notes. You can join. I said, working on a new episode. Question, what is the best sequel ever made and what is the worst? We will read your answers on the episode. So we're going to look at some Facebook ones real quick here. All right, all comments, previous comments. All right, first comment comes from our buddy Johnny Gibbs, who says, gonna talk this out and get back to you. And he never did.
He sent me the same text and then he replied back with, "Alrighty then," from Ace Ventura.
All right, so Ryan Copeland, he put, ever made, so many great sequels pop into mind. Godfather 2, The Two Towers, Return of the King, though I tend to think all of 3 Lord of the Ring films are one large film. The Dark Knight, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Empire Strikes Back, Terminator 2, Bad Boys 2, and Winter Soldier. I was wondering when Marvel was going to make someone's list.
So I will tell you this. I specifically did not look at any Marvel movies because most of them are better than the previous ones.
Yeah.
And I specifically did not look at, and it'll get into it with the horror or the worst movies. If you've got like 10 or 12 movies, like Jason 10, I didn't get into a lot of that.
I got you.
A lot of that, but yeah.
What do you think of Bad Boys 2?
It's okay.
It's good. It's good.
It's not the better sequel.
I think of all Michael Bay movies as just one franchise, if I'm being honest. And I liked Bad Boys 2, and I said, all right, so when he says worst sequels is easy.
Oh, well, here we go.
He said.
Let me see if I got any of these in mind.
He said Superman 4, Under Siege 2, which, Ryan, I love you. I'm going to disagree. He said Staying Alive. Oof.
That made a lot of people's lists.
I know.
I don't mind it.
I listen. I have to recuse myself from any John Travolta movies.
I'd like saying. I'll be in the.
I can't.
I like saying.
I have to recuse myself. I know the man personally, so but I kind of love Staying Alive.
I like it.
I kind of love it now.
Guilty pleasure. Yeah.
Love it now.
Yeah.
Let's see. He said Godfather 3, though the recent re-release doesn't make up for it. And then he put Rocky 4. And I said, I replied, Rocky 4?
Rocky 4
I said, say it ain't so, my friend.
Rocky,
and he said, damn it, I meant Rocky 5.
Drago? Okay.
He said Rocky 5. I meant the one with Tommy Gunn.
Yeah.
Past and future guest Bill Searcy wrote, honestly, speaking as a dad, nowadays there's a lot of kids movies that the sequels are all great. Despicable Me 2, Toy Story 2, Paddington 2, and on and on. I've got to go with Die Hard 2 or Lethal Weapon 2. They kept those franchise going for me.
Die Hard 2 sucks. I'm sorry.
What's that?
Die Hard 2 sucks.
I'm
sorry.
We can have a discussion about that because I kind of love that movie also.
Yeah.
Although I'll admit Rennie Harlan cannot pull good performances out of people.
No.
The ADR and some of the acting is really shoddy, but still, it's a practical movie. Let's see. The worst two for me. The worst two for me is also 2 movies that the originals are some of my favorites. Caddyshack 2. We're gonna see that a lot.
Which I will acknowledge publicly. I have never seen.
And
Caddyshack.
I urged you never to watch it.
I've never seen Caddyshack or Caddyshack 2.
The first Caddyshack is definitely a product of its time. I mean, it's it's right in that wheelhouse of Meatballs and
Yeah.
National Lampoon's Vacation, and it's
a knowledge gap for me.
I mean, Caddyshack is directed by Harold Ramis.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. And he said Blues Brothers 2000.
Now, I've again, that's another blind spot for me. I've never seen Blues Brothers nor Blues Brothers 2000. So,
Well, it's interesting. I watched Blues Brothers for the first time in 2020
really,
or 2019.
yeah. I'm just not. I didn't grow up with Jim Belushi. He's not my favorite.
So I totally respect. This is the one and only movie I think in history where John Landis didn't have a budget. What I meant by that, he didn't have a cap.
Oh, yeah.
Like anytime you wanted to do something, you went to Universal and said, "I want to do this." They'd be like, "All right, just do it.
go ahead.
Just do it."
Yeah.
So there's some crazy stunt work in that movie. It is okay.
It's on my bucket list eventually.
Barry, good friend of the show, Barry Metcalf. Barry, hope you're doing good, buddy. He said the first that springs to mind for me with regards to best sequel is definitely Terminator 2. It just holds a special place in my heart, and I'll never tire of it. I completely agree with you, Barry.
Agree.
It's the perfect popcorn action flick. Yeah, he said with a
Yeah,
heart too,
exactly.
even if it's metallic.
Good job, Barry.
Worst sequels. He said worst sequel, Jaws the Revenge. But as Michael Caine once said, he's never seen the movie, only the house it bought his mother.
I have that quote on here for my worst.
Another great friend of the show, Richard Sternberg. Richard, I hope you're doing good, buddy. He said best comes down to Godfather Part 2, Aliens, or Terminator 2. Each incredible on their own, but the first, but make the, he put the twice. Okay, that's why I was trying to read. And he said, but make the first even better and strengthen the stories together. I'm not counting Lord of the Rings or Empire Strikes Back, as I include them in a trilogy rather than standing alone with two films. Worst, sorry, there's too many to choose from. Gun to my head right now, I'd go for Matrix Resurrections.
Ugh.
Okay? Which I liked.
I was a fan of.
I liked it, Richard. But you know what? We all have different opinions, and that's okay. I would put Matrix Resurrection as the second best Matrix movie.
I would say the exact same thing.
That's a personal.
Yeah, all right.
But these are personal.
I got to my worst ones yet, but yeah.
Another great past and hopefully future guest, Mike Gallagher. He said best sequels, Godfather Part 2 or Empire Strikes Back. He said worst, Blues Brothers 2000, Jaws the Revenge. Although this is a huge guilty pleasure movie, and what introduced me to How Is This Movie back in the day. That was the name of the podcast before it was the Dane Buckler
okay.
Show. Yeah, so it used to be called House Movie. Love you, Mike. That was awesome. He was a guest when it was How Was This Movie. I did an episode on Jaws the Revenge, which I
nice.
think is still out there. Great friend of the show, Kev Beasley, says, sounds like an exciting episode. Going for the obvious one for best sequel, Terminator 2, and the worst sequel, Terminator Dark Fate, for ruining Terminator 2.
No, Terminator Dark Fate did not ruin Terminator 2. It ruined Terminator 3.
Well, no. Terminator Dark Fate opens with a de-aged John Connor
Yes.
being killed.
But then Terminator 3 has already occurred at that point.
No. This is one of those retcon. Even Cameron.
Oh, so they're just going to... I always assumed the canon was 1, 2,
No.
and then Dark Fate.
So the original canon is... Okay, the original canon is 1, 2, 3. Okay. Then you get 4, which is...
Genesis.
4, which is the one with Christian Bale.
Christian Bale.
Okay,
That's two of those, right?
No, he did one. It's kind of
one?
a standalone. Then you get 5, which is Genesis, which is
Horrific.
a direct sequel to 1, and then you get Dark Fate 2.
See, I thought Dark Fate was a direct sequel to 2.
Now,
Not 3.
2. Dark Fate puts you in a world where Rise of the Machines, Terminator Genesis, and
Those sons of bitches.
All right,
Skynet's fucking it all up.
Richard Sternberg. I respectfully offer one film that covers both categories: Grease and Grease 2. Well done. Well, he said it covers both categories.
I've never seen Grease 2, but yeah.
That's good. All right. Nige Fever. He said Joe Dirt 2. Many people would claim the first one is terrible, and those people are wrong. The second one is complete dog shit, though. Let's see. Jay Eifold. Okay. Granted, a lot aren't direct sequels, but they're off the top of my head. Standouts to me. Best sequels: The Dark Knight, Elm Street 3, Halloween 3, Best of the Best 2, Captain America Winter Soldier, Thor Ragnarok.
Wait, he said Halloween 3 was one of the best sequels?
Best sequels. I like Halloween
Season
3.
of the Witch?
I like it, but to me, we already know what I think the best Halloween sequel is. Came out last year, everybody. Do the math.
It kills me.
Thor Ragnarok, Scary Movie 2, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. All right, worst sequels. You ready? Mission Impossible 2, American Psycho 2,
Yep.
Speed 2,
Yep.
Alien vs. Predator Requiem, Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yeah.
Okay, another great friend of the show, Richard Lloyd. Best, The Godfather Part 2. He said, boring, I know. Worst, Independence Day 2. I couldn't finish that heap of shit in 3 attempts. Richard, I completely agree with you, buddy. Completely agree with you on the Independence Day 2. I've never finished that film. Daniel Gray, our buddy Daniel Gray. He's been coming to a lot of our movie nights. Daniel, hope you're doing great. He said, best sequel. Oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay. Daniel Gray says, worst sequel, Finding Dory. Best sequel. Best sequel.
What? Best sequel is Finding...
No. He said his worst sequel is Finding Dory.
Okay.
His best sequel. And Daniel, I love you, buddy. And I appreciate you coming to my movie nights, and I know you're building an amazing podcast studio, and Jason and I can't wait to do some collaborations with you. We can't wait. Daniel Gray, your best sequel is The Hangover Part 2.
That's me banging my head on the microphone.
I think Hangover 3 is better than 2, and I don't like either of those movies.
Hangover 2 was floating in my top 20 of worst sequels.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. All right. So that's the Facebook. I'm going to quickly shoot over to Instagram. We got a few on here. Let's see here. All righty. One moment. All right. Starting from the bottom. All right. Oh, okay. Awesome. JB from F This Movie. Big fan of yours, JB. Big fan. Absolutely. He said the best is The Bride of Frankenstein.
Oh,
okay, and
old one.
Yeah, but to know him, he's like crazy about the old Universal stuff. Totally understand that.
I will.
And JB,
I'll give you that.
I could listen to you for hours talk movies. So I'd love to have you as a guest on the show sometime. Just putting that out there. He said the worst, Meatballs 2. I've never seen it.
I've never seen Meatballs 2. No,
I'm going to take his word for it.
I didn't know that it existed.
This one is Geeking Out with Ethan. Said that the best sequel is Avengers Endgame. The worst sequel is Cars 2. Okay. The Travel Wins. He said The Godfather 2 the best. He said the worst Jaws 2. I beg to disagree with you. The Travel Wins. I have quite a affinity for that movie.
I do enjoy Jaws 2.
It's really grown on me. It's really grown on me a lot. Graham Archibald put Batman and Robin is one of the worst off the top of my head. My buddy Eamon, I've been texting with you all day today. I convinced him to watch Prey. He said the best is Terminator 2. The worst is Blair Witch Project 2. That's pretty bad.
It's in there.
Graham Archibald again says, can't decide between Godfather 2, Aliens 2, T2, Empire, different day, different answer. Ride of the Valkyries put best sequel, Empire Strikes Back. Worst sequel, Van Wilder, Rise of Taj.
Oh, come on.
And this one just, the screen name here is GJD4723 says best sequel Aliens, worst sequel Speed 2. All right, Jason. Now this is the part of the show that I've been really looking forward to because I have no idea what you're going to put on your list of worst sequels, and I wonder if I'm going to have to defend any of these movies. So
I don't think you will.
Let's go with your honorable mentions on worst sequels first.
Okay. Some of these you may have to defend because coming up with the best list was the best 8 was easy. Filling out that final 2 was difficult.
Okay.
This one, and I'll tell you what I did. I did not look at like the craziest ones, like, Son of Mask.
Sure.
Which everyone says like 0% rating, worst movie ever made. What I tried to do was look at movies that were really good or somewhat good or culturally significant, and their sequels came out and it was just like,
they shit the bed.
You suck.
Okay, I like that. No, but I like the context of how you put this list together. Okay.
Because I wanted to come up with, like, on my outside list, Jason X, whatever you want to call it. Like, horrible movie, but doesn't make the cut because it's an outlier out there.
Yep. All right, so honorable mentions.
So honorable mentions, Zoolander 2.
Okay, never saw it.
Don't do it. Dumb and Dumber 2, not the letter 2.
Okay.
T-O.
They made 2 Dumb and Dumber sequels. They made Dumb and Dumberer,
which did not include
Bridges, or Daniels and Carey.
correct.
And then Dumb and Dumber 2, I watched the first 30 minutes of it, and I was like, I'm done.
It was one of those like you don't if you're not going to make a movie that's even on the same plane,
It was not good. It was not good. I agree. Okay.
Next Karate Kid.
You know what? That's one of those. I think it was on TNT or some channel a lot. So I've seen like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. No, zero interest. Would rather watch Karate Kid Part 3.
Yeah. So Karate Kid itself was just like, you know, a kid down in the dumps, guy helps him out. This was like a girl who hates everyone. And then
Karate Kid was Rocky for our age group
there you go.
when we were kids. Yeah.
Perfect.
By the way, ironically, same director, John G. Avildsen. So I don't think that's a coincidence.
Dr. Sleep. This was
No, I'm going to defend this one.
This was like right at the top.
I'm going to defend this
Okay,
one.
go ahead.
I'm going to defend this one. I watched, I've only seen it one time, but on HBO Max, they had the director's cut,
Okay.
which added an extra half an hour, which, you know, a lot of people out there were saying, if you're going to watch this movie, just watch the director's cut. And I was really digging the movie. In fact, I was digging the movie for the most part until he went to the Overlook Hotel. And I'm like, well, I don't think we really needed to go there. I'm actually going to go on record saying I'm a fan of that movie.
So here's why I'm not a fan of that movie.
Okay.
The first 90% of it is hunting children to murder them.
Right. Okay. Which I'm not endorsing that. I'm not endorsing
I don't
that.
know. It sounds like you got a seal of approval there.
Okay. Okay. I'm not going to backpedal. I think the performances were really good in that movie. I thought it was a good movie.
I appreciated Ewan McGregor's character. My problem with it is the original was so good.
Yes.
It's like making Citizen Kane 2, like, but you kill children.
The main villain was Rebecca Ferguson. Was
Yes.
that okay? Who
Does great in Fallout.
I am just enamored with.
Yes.
And the hat she was wearing in the okay. So I might be looking through the lenses of I thought she was just gorgeous.
But again, this is my
yeah, this is honorable mentions. Okay.
only other one I had in there, and it's only because the original was so good, was Trainspotting 2.
Haven't seen it. No desire to.
No, you shouldn't. If you enjoy the original, this is most of my list is just leave it alone.
Yeah, certain movies fall under the category of unnecessary
I want to
sequel.
say, just looking back here, maybe 2 or 3 of these are past the second movie.
Okay.
It's just my list is your original was good. Stop it.
Yeah.
What the hell were you thinking?
All right. All right. So let's get into your top 10 worst
right.
sequels of all time.
So number 10, which you had already mentioned in one of those online lists, Batman and Robin.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze, coming in at a 12% Rotten Tomato.
His other nickname, the $25 million man, because that's what he was paid for that performance.
And a terrible script.
Yeah, I've never seen that movie from start to finish. I've never been able to sit through the entire thing.
And you are a better person for it.
The only thing I like is I think Uma Thurman looks ridiculously good in her Poison Ivy outfit. But
She does, but
other than that,
take Kill Bill.
yeah,
over that. And
yeah. I can honestly say I've never sat through that movie from beginning to end. I've tried, but I can't.
Not worth it.
And frankly, Batman Forever falls into that category for me as well.
anything after the original Batman up until the Batman, well,
Yeah.
outside of the Christopher Nolan trilogy.
Right. That's interesting. Okay. Yeah.
Number 9 leads me to 2006 Rotten Tomatoes score of 6%.
All right.
We're at Basic Instinct 2.
Again, I've never seen it.
Have you not?
Another didn't no interest. No interest. Love the first one.
After
First one's
losing
so good.
Joel Esterhouse's original, like the original I think has like a Rotten Tomatoes score of like 70%.
Yeah.
It's not going to end up in the Hall of Records.
It's not
as
a
movie.
classic.
But it is culturally significant. It is a thriller. It is a great time. And at the end of the movie, you are left just
It's
titillated.
entertaining as hell.
It is.
It's a very entertaining.
And this one has a lot of action. It has a lot of sex, just like the first one. But the story just dwindles. And it's one of those that should have been left alone.
Okay. All right.
Number 8 was also on the online list.
All right.
So the original movie was so well done. To this day, if I watch the last like 10 minutes, I still get teary-eyed. And it follows up with this movie, which is just a behemoth of crap.
Okay.
And that is Cars 2.
I have never seen Cars 2.
No. Have you seen Cars?
Maybe once, but don't really remember much about it if I did.
You've got Owen Wilson and Paul Newman. I mean, just really, Cars, the original, was fantastic. It's what launched 1 million mattresses or whatever, mattress covers.
Car beds, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, just the merchandise alone killed it. And Cars 2 was terrible.
Okay.
Horrible. Number 7, coming in at 2016 with a 22% Rotten Tomatoes. Zoolander 2.
Again.
Oh, we're killing it with movies you haven't seen.
I've had no. I'm listen. Hot take. Hot take.
I'm
You ready?
I'm gonna commend you for not wasting your time.
Hot take. Not crazy about the first one.
Oh, really?
I was not over the moon about it. Now, to be fair, I wasn't crazy about The Cable Guy when it first came out.
Okay.
And then upon reevaluation, I think it's one of Jim Carrey's best movies, and it is directed by Ben Stiller. And
Working on my hammies.
it's probably been. I just watched that scene on YouTube a couple days ago. Hey, you guys play here too? Just throw me the rock, pass me the rock. I'll take care of the. I think Cable Guy's one of Jim Carrey's best movies. But
great, yeah.
That being said, Zoolander, I think I saw it when it first came out. Maybe saw it in the theater. I can't remember. I'm going to say it needs a reevaluation. I need to watch it again, but I still have zero interest in the sequel.
So Zoolander it's farcical, and it makes fun of the entire, fashion industry at the same time poking fun at themselves. And they should have stopped there because they nailed it 100%. The second one was not
I
necessary.
agree. All right. Interesting. Okay.
Rounding out the top 10, number 6. And let's see what you think about this.
Okay.
1993,
93.
a 10% Rotten Tomatoes,
Okay.
Weekend at Bernie's 2.
I have seen Weekend at Bernie's too.
I know. Well, before you comment
Okay.
on what you say, Bernie, played by
Terry Kaiser.
Terry Kaiser, phenomenal. Pantomime, just if the rest of the crew could do as well of a job as he did, it would not be here, but the story is just no.
My dad took my brother and I to see the first Weekend at Bernie's, which I think is 1989.
Classic. Beautiful
And
movie.
I revisited that film maybe a year ago. I hadn't seen it in years. I had fond memories of it. And I was like, I don't think this thing's going to hold up, because if you think of the plot premise. No, I was wrong. Like,
So good.
like it's really funny. It's really,
I
really
rewatched
funny.
it about 3 months ago and just was dying.
But it has so much to say, sort of about the what's the word? The affluent people and the God. I'm drawing a blank here. Like when people are just all about their image.
the social influencer, like this, this is a Southampton's movie.
It's all about being seen and being at the right parties, and nobody really gives a shit about anybody. Actually, there's some social commentary that I think is more relevant today than when that movie came out. And I like Andrew McCarthy. I think he's good. But you're right, Terry Kaiser, he steals the show.
He kills it.
Now, that being said, Weekend at Bernie's 2, I think I saw in the theater, and it's awful.
Right. So
It's
Weekend at
awful.
Bernie's, you can excuse it like, all right, he's dead. They're, using ropes and levers to make you look like he's alive. This one is like, you know what? Voodoo.
Yeah.
We'll just bring him back with voodoo and it'll be fine.
In the first Weekend at Bernie's, there's where like you've got the hitman keeps trying to kill Bernie, keeps thinking he's alive, and he keeps running out of ways to kill. I mean, and that entire scene with the speedboat where he's being towed, it goes over the ramp. Yeah, he goes over the ramp. like just it's
everyone's like, oh, look at Bernie go. Yeah. Completely loses it here.
which is crazy. Like sitting there, we're having a great time talking about the first one, and we're trying to ignore talking about the second one. Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's 2, 100%, absolutely awful film.
All right, so that brings us to the top 5.
Okay.
And we've hit on number 5 for me, which is Jaws: The Revenge.
Okay.
This time it's personal.
All right. So Jaws: The Revenge came out in 1987. Okay.
And I will tell you, I saw this. I did not see this in the theaters.
Okay.
I saw this on probably HBO or whatever streaming. When I was a kid, there was also a Jaws The Revenge video game,
That's correct.
where you had to go and collect the conch shells and then shoot the shark.
Made by the famous video game company LJN,
So
who also made Back to the Future game and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. They made all, and they're all terrible.
And I owned that game. So I rewatched it about 2 years ago and realized how horrible it is. Just story-wise, how horrible it is.
I'm somewhat of an expert on Jaws: The Revenge.
I love it.
Okay,
Let's hear it.
So, a couple things I want to point out. So, Universal, by that, you understand, this is 1986. 1986. Universal's had a number of movies that have just kind of, with the exception of Back to the Future, almost everything else they've been putting out has been losing money. And Sid Sheinberg, then CEO, chairman of the board of Universal, he says, like, well, what else do we have in our back catalog? And it's like, well, we could do another Jaws movie, because as much as Jaws 3 is, kind of laughed at, it was still profitable. It still made money.
I enjoy Jaws.
I
enjoy Jaws 1 and 2.
I kind of love
I
the first three.
Yeah.
Well, obviously love the first one. But so Sid Sheinberg's like, we don't have anything for our 1987 summer release. We need to get a Jaws movie made. So he goes to a journeyman director by the name of Joseph Sargent. Says, listen, can you make a Jaws movie in 7 months? From when this conversation's happening,
Sure.
can you make? And he said, you can be the writer, the director, the producer. And Joseph Sargent said, all right, can we set it in the Bahamas? He's like, done. And so Sargent just bangs out a script. And something to keep in mind, okay? This is the fourth movie in the Jaws franchise. Do you know how many people are killed by the shark in Jaws: The Revenge? By the way, Jaws 3, high body count.
Let me think. There's the original 4?
2.
2.
Ready for the 2? Sean at the beginning.
Beginning when Sean.
Okay. Lady on the banana boat.
That's it?
Yep, because Jake, Mary Van Peebles, looks like he gets killed, but if you watch the extended cut, not the European version, he survives.
He's okay.
I'm not 100% sure what Joseph Sargent was trying to do. All right. He was trying to bring it back to a drama, a family drama. And then, lo and behold, here's the thing. The original idea that Joseph Sargent had for why this shark was personally going after the Brodies, he should have just went with it. I'll explain. So, in this movie, Mike Brody is a marine biologist. He's no longer a maintenance guy at SeaWorld. He's now a marine biologist.
He's moved on.
All right, so him and his buddy Jake, they're in the original story for Jaws 4. He gets into a land dispute in the Bahamas, a property dispute with someone who has an uncle named Papa Jacques, who is a voodoo priest who puts a curse on the Brodies.
Well, that explains it.
And that is why the shark is targeting
name was
only
Bernie.
them. Only them, okay? Just put that in the movie, man, and up the body count.
Yeah.
Now, I saw this movie in the theater, 9 years old.
Really?
It's the one and only Jaws movie I've seen in the theater. I'm not defending it. It's not good.
No, it's bad.
It's really not good. Although, if there's one redeeming quality about this film, the underwater sequence where Michael is trying to escape the shark in the sunken boat, it's entertaining. It's entertaining. The ending makes no sense. Nothing makes sense. Oh, and also in the original script, Michael Caine's character Hoagie was a drug smuggler.
Well, that would have made it better.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
That's what he did. So, it's not good. It's not good. It's not good.
No, and I still, side note, need to check online. Supposedly still Labor Day weekend, Jaws, the original, is coming back out to IMAX.
I keep trying to. I can't
looking
find
for it.
tickets. I can't find tickets.
Here's the thing. It's not like I just saw it online.
No, I saw it was a preview
in
for
the
Bullet
theater.
Train.
I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah, when I saw Bullet Train.
Yeah.
When I saw the first 30 minutes of Bullet Train. We don't want to talk about that. We don't want to date this podcast right now. Okay. All right.
So, moving into the top 4, 1991, a 0% Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, I want a hint. Give me a hint.
Give you a hint. It's science fiction.
Okay.
2 protagonists reprising their roles from the original.
Oh, I'm close.
One of them was killed in the original.
Oh, okay. Okay. I know what it is. No, I know what it is. Directed by Russell Mulcahy. And, well, they took the cut away from him and recut it. this would be a movie that stars one Christopher Lambert and one Sean Connery playing the character of Ramirez. This is Highlander 2: The Quickening.
That would be correct.
All right. Yes. There's like 5 different versions of that movie floating around.
Yeah.
But the theatrical one is unwatchable.
There can be only one. And it should have been the first one.
Oh, like watch the theatrical version of Highlander 2 and try to tell me anything that movie's about.
Any of them are horrible. So I saw a bunch of people online saying like Highlander 2 or 3. 3 was also
not
unwatchable. 2 was just, I'm not even sure who came up with the idea.
No, I still, you could say, I'm going to give you 10 grand right now. Tell me the plot of Highlander 2. I can't do it.
But I can tell you this, Highlander the original.
Yeah.
With the soundtrack by Queen.
Yes, which I love, the soundtrack.
It was a great movie.
It's a really interesting film.
Well, I should say that. It's not a great movie. It's a good movie.
It's a good movie.
It's an interesting premise.
Yeah.
That leaves an opening like, who the hell are these people?
Yeah.
How did they get to this point?
And Clancy Brown plays a menacing villain. Menacing villain movie. So yeah. I like the Highlander. I don't love it, but I like it. But I recognize the Highlander 2. Yeah. Again, I don't know what that movie's about.
No.
That's
later on though, the TV show
not bad.
Highlander was pretty good.
Watchable.
Yeah.
I mean, these episodes
they eventually meet up at one point.
They're 42 minutes long.
Yeah.
Get in, get out, do the job. So, all right. Interesting. Yep.
So that moves us into the top 3.
Okay.
Which I think everyone can guess at least 2 of these.
All right.
The first one from 1997.
All right. Hint.
A 4% Rotten Tomatoes rating with the same director as the first one.
Okay. Oh, this is Speed 2 Cruise Control.
There you go.
Directed by Jan de Bont.
Yes.
This one stars Sandra Bullock, Jason Patric, and Willem Dafoe as the bad guy.
Yes.
And a movie that takes place predominantly on a cruise ship that can't go above 25 knots.
Yes.
Okay.
And here's what I'll give you. If this movie were to come on TNT, I would probably watch it.
Yeah.
My problem with it is it preceded Speed, which was such a fantastic movie, and entered the sequel phase with just such a dud.
It makes no sense to me. And I saw, Speed is one of the great action films of all time.
Yeah.
And you want to talk about a movie that never slows down.
Seriously.
Like it goes. And there are, the opening of Speed 2 has Jason Patric, part of the Suicide Squad or whatever they're called. Like there are like these cops on Ducati motorcycles, and I'm like, oh, I want to see this movie.
Yep.
This looks super badass.
Yeah, let's stay in LA.
Stay in LA. These guys are they're like an elite version of the LAPD and
the SWAT team specialists.
And I'm like, I remember like the first 10 minutes of this movie is like, I'm in. Holy shit, this is going to be amazing. And then they go on fucking vacation.
He's like, I'm sorry you found out that I was lying to you this whole time. I am actually a cop. Let's go on vacation.
Yeah. Like the movie, the whole thing goes on vacation.
Yeah.
The characters, the movie, the director, there's
no comedy relief. There's no, it drags. It needs commercial interruptions so you can go get a beer or go to the bathroom or.
It's so bizarre. Yeah. And then Jan de Bont's going to do one more movie. He's going to do The Haunting a couple years later. And then he just kind of goes back to being like director of
cinematographer.
Yeah, because he was director of photography on Die Hard. I think he was director of photography on The Hunt for Red October as well. Yeah. He's a good DP. He really is. God, he directed Twister. People like
everybody's got a dud.
Yeah.
But his dud was really
all right. That's
it came off of his movie, which is so.
I know
it's not like he came in and was like, what do we got here?
Yeah. And by the way, Speed, one of the most successful films, one of the highest grossing films of 1994. Only the only movie that Forrest Gump makes more money, but 20th Century Fox could have told Jan de Bont, do whatever you want. Right. So this is all him. Yeah. This is his concept.
And Speed 2 did not have to be on a cruise ship.
No, he could have done anything and the studio would have funded it.
On a bullet train.
Because, by the way, the year before, he does Twister, also hugely successful.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want, Jan. Do whatever you want.
Like, hey, how about Speed 2 on an airplane?
Yeah. Like, anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. If the plane's going to run out of fuel or, whatever. Okay. All right. That's good.
All right. Next one has a...
Which number is this? Is number 2?
This is number 2.
Number 2. Okay.
Surprisingly, 29%.
All right. Hint.
Rotten Tomatoes. The only sequel so far,
Okay.
2016.
Okay.
We've talked about it. The original was in the 90s.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. Already. This is going to be Roland Emmerich and Bill Pullman and Jeff Goldblum being the only ones returning. This is Independence Day Resurgence. Well,
So starting off, and this is why this is why it hits number 2 for me. I'm sure there's plenty of other sequels that are just freaking terrible. This was a sequel to a movie that was almost universally revered.
yes.
Not universally liked, but just
Cultural phenomenon when it came out.
cultural phenomenon.
Everybody was seeing this movie.
I would imagine America, 80% of the people have seen this.
In 1996, if you were over the age of 10, you saw this in the theater. That's a fact. I saw it 3 times in the theater.
Oh, yeah.
I have since, my opinion of the movie has really kind of fallen off a cliff. I love the setup. Once we get to once the attack is over, I sometimes just stop the movie.
Agree. Like, it gets a little hokey along the way.
The
but,
humor is a little misaligned.
right. By the time you get to the end of the movie, you're completely satisfied.
Yeah,
You're
Bill
like,
Pullman gives the great speech.
Yes.
Yeah. Holy shit. This Independent. Oh my God.
I saw this in the theater.
I walked out of it. I walked out.
Excited to see this.
I walked out. I didn't finish it. I was like, this is awful.
I didn't walk out, but at the same time, I was just like, you ruined the original. You ruined the original.
This was supposed to be a trilogy of films.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah, this was no. I'm not talking about the original, but Independence Day Resurgent.
After 2, they assumed like everyone's going to get on board and
going to make 3 more movies. We're going to start with Resurgent. That's why it ends on that cliffhanger. From what I'm told, I've never finished the movie, but this was supposed to be the first of 3 movies, and I mean it was massive. What was this Rotten Tomato score?
so 29%.
That's so generous,
Right?
That means that some people gave it a positive.
71% of people agreed that this was, or 29% of people agreed that this was okay.
This was good.
This was not bad. This was above 50%.
But let's look at the climate we're in 2016. Okay, by this point, everybody is conditioned for big CGI spectacle.
Yeah.
With limited character development, all of that stuff that's all secondary to what are you going to show me on screen that you made on your computer.
Right.
It's garbage.
The dialogue's not good. The story's not good.
But Emmerich's on he's already started his decline by this point.
Is it Moonfall that's after this? Like what does he hit after this?
After this, he does Midway, which
I actually kind of like Midway. I'm sorry.
it's just
It's a lot of
buddy. There's a few working World War II planes out there, man. Just get a couple of them.
Yeah.
Don't make them all CGI. I mean,
I actually kind of like Midway. Yeah.
But yeah, he's kind of fallen off. He does 2012 and 2009. There's one in between there. I just don't even remember what it was.
But even still, you're given the keys to the kingdom on Independence Day. Like,
but Will Smith said no.
And he should have.
Yeah. But they had to redo the whole script once he said no. He was convinced that Smith was going to be like, yeah, of course I'm going to reprise the role of Captain Hillard.
Oh, sure. Like, I would love to see Captain Hillard as the president.
Yeah.
And, they could have gone in so many different directions from there and then just...
But what happens now is, I'm going to go ahead and say it, the special effects in Independence Day 1996 look better than they do in Resurgence because... they were still using a lot of model work. Like all of those cities that get blown up, the White House, New York, those are models that they built, that they blew up. Like the eye, we still know when something's not fake. So when you see all this shit just being scooped up in the air from the gravitational pull, like none of that looks real.
Right.
And that's the same thing with Moonfall.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
Moonfall, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we're on to your number 1.
Number 1, you want to take a guess?
Just give me the year. I
1977.
1977.
1977.
Okay, and this is a sequel. Okay.
Rotten Tomatoes score of 10%.
Okay, and this is a sequel. Okay.
Metacritic score of 39.
Okay.
A sequel to probably one of the scariest movies I ever saw as a child.
Okay. I know exactly what movie you're talking about right now. This is the John Boorman directed Exorcist II: The Heretic.
The Exorcist II: The Heretic.
Interesting. Okay. And this one has what's interesting about this film is it has Louise Fletcher coming off of her Academy Award for One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as Nurse Ratched, which kind of destroyed her career because she was so evil in that movie. She plays a good person in Exorcist 2.
She never gets to work again, yeah.
She, like, nobody can know. People are watching Exorcist 2 and like, she's in on it.
Like, fuck you.
She is in on it.
Yeah.
And she's not.
She's the demon.
She's the demon. Yeah. So poor casting choice there.
What are your, well, before we get into that, what are your thoughts on The Exorcist?
Okay. The original Exorcist to me is, I invite listeners to scroll back to the 2018 section of this podcast. I did a 2.5 hour long in-depth look at this film.
Oh, good.
First 45 minutes is me going through the history of the film. Then I bring on my friend Kelly Goodner we sort of break down the movie. She's a screenwriter, and we sort of break down it from a screenplay point of view. And then I bring on Jim Hemphill, my buddy, who is a staunch defender of Exorcist 2.
God.
But I wanted to have...
I love that debate.
Yeah, you have to listen to it. There is a great YouTube clip of William Friedkin. He's doing a Q&A, and this clip's only about 3 minutes long, where he is asked, have you ever seen The Exorcist 2? And he goes, have I ever seen The Exorcist? Of course I've never seen The Exorcist 2. And he goes, oh, wait. When I was doing another movie, the editing room down the hall, the guys came in and said, we're cutting Exorcist 2. Do you want to see that? You know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to play it.
I have to ask, did you ever watch any of the sequels or have any thoughts on any of the sequels over the years?
Are you putting me on?
No.
I have never seen a frame of any of the sequels. And I'm not interested in them. I actually did see maybe 2 or 3 minutes of Exorcist 2. I was at the Technicolor lab, and one of the color timers said, hey, we're running Exorcist 2. Do you want to go in the screening room and have a look at it? And I was over there doing something else, and I said, okay, sure. So I went in the screening room, and I see some guys riding on the back of a bumblebee or some fucking thing. It was unreal. And I left. And now I'm going to tell you the story of the first screening of Exorcist 2, the sneak preview in Pasadena. This was Exorcist 2, and it was told to me by an executive of Warner Brothers, because the executive said, oh, you got to come out to see the sneak preview. It's really terrific, and you're going to love it. You're a grandfather. You should be proud. And I said, no, I think I'll miss it. And then afterwards, he told me the story. These Warner Brothers executives drove out to Pasadena in their big limousines, and they were all dressed up, and they went into the theater, which was packed, turn-away crowds, and they went and sat in the last row. And about 10 minutes into the film, now, before they went into the theater, they told their limo drivers, look, we're going to be in there for like 2 hours and 20 minutes, so, or maybe more. You guys go on down the end of the block. There were some fast food joints. They went down to get a cup of coffee, whatever. So the limos are gone. The executives go into the last row. 10 minutes into the picture, a guy stood up in the audience. He stood up and he looked around and he said, the people who made this piece of shit are in this room. And somebody else said, where are they? 10 or 12 people get up, and he says, they're all back there. Now, these guys got up. The heads of the studio, they got up. They ran out of the theater. They get outside, no cars. The cars are all down at McDonald's and all that, and they were chased down the street. That was the first public reaction to Exorcist 2. And you asked me, Peter, if I have seen any of these things. Like I'd sit there. Oh my God. Spare me.
You saw Repossessed, right?
No, I didn't see Repossessed. I missed that one.
And I'm a big William Friedkin guy. Like I have, well, I'm hot and cold on a lot of his stuff, but the stuff that I love is classic. Now,
Yeah.
to go back to The Exorcist, in my opinion, it's the best horror movie ever made. And The
Exorcist.
The Exorcist. And the reason I say that is because Friedkin, although he had made a couple feature films, he came up in the world of documentary filmmaking. Okay. And he has it's not a flashy approach. He has the way he frames this movie, the composition of the shots, it's the most realistic thing.
It's submissive.
Yes. And
like you're watching it, but you have no choice. You have to watch it.
he's not using flashy camera tricks.
Right.
I mean, that entire scene where Regan gets the spinal tap, it's so cold. Like the camera's above looking down and it's and the movie, there's not jump scares. It's not The Conjuring, it is brutally terrifying. And it's one that I have a hard time watching by myself, even to this day. Now, I will go on record as saying, I say that Exorcist is the greatest horror movie ever made. I will say that The Exorcist 3 is the scariest horror movie ever made. That is the movie that scares me, gives me the willies, whatever you say, more than any other film ever made. And The Exorcist 3, people dismiss that film because of The Exorcist 2.
I have to rewatch that.
The Exorcist 3 is Fincher.
It's been at least 20 years since I've seen
David Fincher owes royalty checks to William Peter Blatty, who directed Exorcist 3, because the concept of not showing the crime, not showing the murders, but only describing them after the fact, which was basically what they did in Seven. He borrowed that heavily. So I'm not knocking on Seven. I think it's an amazing film, but Exorcist 3 is utterly terrifying.
Well, I know what I'm watching tonight.
Yeah, that's good. It's so psychological. There's shit that happens in that movie where you're like, did I just see that? Did I just see that? Did I see that?
Yeah.
And I mentioned jump scares. The Exorcist 3 is famous for having arguably, the greatest jump scare in movie history. So
that's on my list for tonight. But back to 2.
Okay. Yes, we haven't really talked about 2.
We haven't talked about 2. And so I rewatched this about a week ago.
Okay.
Because I remember it being I remember the original being so amazing, and it's probably been 2 years since I've seen the original. Rewatching that, it is difficult. The story's not there. The characters don't seem to be involved with the story. Regan, the 180 they turn on her with, I don't know if we need to say spoilers, but
you can say spoilers for Exorcist 2.
People, the reason that they're attacked, or they have some kind of psychic abilities for healing now that just come into this whole, canon. It makes no sense to me. The movie it completely falls apart.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could watch it. You'd have to pay me to watch it again.
Well, one of the reasons I watched it, because it was one that I just had completely skipped. And back in 2018, when I knew Jim Hemphill was going to come on and defend the movie, I said,
I'm dying to listen to that.
I better watch it. He makes some interesting points. He really does.
If it had been a planned trilogy, and that's where the first one started, to the second one, to the third one.
No, but the third one, the third one lives in a world where the second one the second film doesn't exist. The third one is so psychologically terrifying. Although I will say this, there is one small issue with the third one. 90% of the film is so good that I forgive it. Was when they were editing the movie and putting it together, and William Peter Blatty, who wrote The Exorcist, directs the third one. The studio, Warner Brothers, was insistent on there actually being an exorcism performed in The Exorcist 3.
Ooh.
Because The Exorcist 3 is based off a book he wrote called Legion, which is more about a serial killer that is a serial killer that's been electrocuted and is now sort of passing through, and Brad Dourif is in Exorcist 3 and gives a bone-chillingly scary performance. However, there is an exorcism shoehorned into the end of the movie, which is fine, but it doesn't, you'll notice it doesn't fit with the narrative of the film.
I would love to see Brad Dourif in a kids movie.
But I know. So that's a good list. All right, excellent.
That rounds me out.
All right, so Jason, before I get into the responses we got on Twitter, when I'm looking at the worst sequels ever made,
I'm so excited for this.
there's a movie that has been burned in my brain for the better part of 25 years. It is hands down not only the worst sequel ever made, in my opinion, but it's one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen.
It's the Manos Hands of Fate.
It's not even that. It's not even that. It's not The Room. It's not Birdemic. It's not Manos Hands of Fate. Like, those movies are just they're bad
in
for
the
being
same genre.
They're bad. This is a movie. Okay, I'll just say it. The movie's called Hallowing. The Hallowing. Am I saying that right? Hallowing.
Hallowing.
Okay, so the first Hallowing was directed by Joe Dante. It's a great movie, scary werewolf film. And then every sequel after that has fallen off a cliff. Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf.
That's where after you mentioned it to me, I was like, I can't go down this path of just...
Like, they're all bad, but they stick to the formula. They're werewolf movies.
Right.
So Howling New Moon Rising, which came out in 1995, directed by Australian auteur Clive Turner.
Which sounds like an amazing
Okay,
movie.
who has these luscious red locks of hair. His hair down to his ass, long hair.
Dana
And he's a
said luscious.
He's
All
a
right.
biker. He's a biker. So the movie's available on YouTube, and I'm going to include it in this episode's show notes. But I'm telling you right now, this is not a Howling movie. This is not a horror movie. This is a movie by a director who found a frontier town somewhere, in Arizona or West Texas, and just
And
put
peyote.
Yeah, and just put the entire town's population in this movie. The whole movie takes place at a country western bar owned by a guy named, I can't remember, Pappy Jack or whatever. I don't remember his name.
I've made it through
Okay.
not even half of this.
Okay. And the movie has nothing but montages of bad jokes, full on country music performances from the local country music band, extended line dancing sequences, and occasionally someone's killed by a werewolf that you never see. It is the most bizarre movie I've ever seen.
It definitely sounds like Florida.
But it's so perplexing because I find myself watching it like once a year. Because it's just a case study in
How terrible something could be.
like, it's not Samurai Cop. It's not, like, those are movies made by people that this guy knows how to frame he knows how to frame a movie. Like, there are scenes where back and forth with camera A, camera B. This is not like somebody who didn't know how to make a movie. It's a movie. There are sequences of people riding Harleys around winding, like it.
He's got it. He's just...
It's passable for a direct-to-video horror movie. Like, it's not someone it's not the guy from The Room who just says he wants to make a movie. He has no fucking idea how to make a movie. He just makes the movie. Tommy Wiseau, whatever. And even though he brings people around him that know how to make a movie, he refuses to follow. This guy, Clive Turner, clearly knows how to make a movie.
Yeah.
But what he has made makes no goddamn sense.
Abomination.
And I tell everybody, some reason I'm strangely addicted to watching this film.
That makes it a good movie.
It's
a cult movie.
It's not even cult. It's like watching a slow moving car accident. I'm trying to. At what point did you ever think this was a good idea? Anyway, so that was mine.
That's the thing is, to me, a cult movie does not have to be good. It can be terrible. So,
Well, Joe Bob Briggs has talked about this film, and he's done it on TNT's Monster Mania or whatever. He has shown this movie before and talks about it.
yeah.
So, all right. So,
I would say, so there were the Peter Jackson movie that I was telling you about before with the monkeys who rape the people. I'm going to find it here.
all right. Don't get too graphic on me here because early Peter Jackson is shit I don't watch.
All right. Well,
I've never seen Bad Taste. I've never seen Dead Alive. I've never seen Meet the Feebles.
no, I'm going to find it here really quick.
And I just listened to an episode of F This Movie this week, and they were talking. It was Patrick Bromley and Adam Risky, and they were talking about Peter Jackson's movie, The Frighteners, which I did see in the theater.
I actually like Frighteners.
And I know Patrick mentioned he was a fan of. He mentioned
It's got to be Dead Alive. Dead Alive. One of the most horrible movies I've ever seen. It's it is a cult movie.
absolutely without a
because
doubt.
of how insane it is. And I still remember at one point, the mother, the son, and his girlfriend.
Go.
Well, I won't. It's
Yeah.
not graphic.
Okay.
It's not graphic. They're sitting down at a lunch, and she's been infected.
Yeah, no, stop. You're going to bring up a scene that I'm already aware of that's going to make me throw up.
I'm not gonna say it.
No.
Her ear falls off.
Yeah.
That's it. I'll
That's
leave it there.
Leave it there. I don't want to
Any
hear
of the
anymore.
listeners who want to
No.
discover what happens
No.
next.
Anyone who knows me knows I don't do well on those type of movies, and I don't even like to talk
But it's
about
that
them.
type of
Yeah.
cult movie that
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be gory. It doesn't have to
But
be.
that movie's super gory.
It is super gory.
It's disgusting.
It doesn't have to be great.
I'll call it what
just
it
has
is.
to be something that people surround it and go, "Oh my god, this is one of the best blank
Yeah.
horror, terror, worst ever." And I think that belongs there. That's a whole.
It's a whole
whole other
nother-
category.
That's
That's a
other
whole
episode.
other show.
That's a whole other show. All right, so I asked the same question on Twitter. We got almost 100 responses.
Yeah.
I'm going to burn through this pretty. We'll stop on anything that really stands out because a lot of this is stuff we've already talked about. Okay. All right. So Doug Gold put best T2, Aliens, Empire Strikes Back, Spider-Man 2. I case for Spider-Man 2.
Nope.
Okay. Worst, a lot of them, but a few key ones: The Lost World, Jurassic Park, Beverly Hills Cop 3.
I'm a fan.
I don't know about Lost World, Jurassic Park personally.
I'm a fan of both, actually. Sorry.
I would watch The Lost World, Jurassic Park before I would watch
3 is better than 2.
I would watch The Lost World before I watch any of the Jurassic World movies. So that's a personal thing. Beverly Hills Cop 3 is it's almost unwatchable to me.
Really?
In comparison to the first two.
Oh well, yeah.
I do not like the third one. I've tried a couple times. Let's see. Songs Gone Wrong. He said Anchorman 2. That was horrendous.
No.
Rock is Not Dead. He said best is between T2 and Maverick. Worst Anchorman 2. Dumb and Dumber 2, like you said.
I like Anchorman though.
Let's see. Dry Heat Writer put best is Star Trek 2. Worst Star Trek 4. The Voyage Home. No. Dry Heat Winner. Dry Heat Writer. Dry Heat Writer.
You got my dry heat going.
Wrath of Khan, absolutely. Voyage Home. This is the one where they go back to
The whales?
The whales.
Nope.
I like that movie.
You do?
I love that movie. I love.
It's not that I love it. It's just it's not. It's not a worst, but it's not a best.
Yeah, I think the next one, Final Frontier, is worse than but I like because they go back to our time, modern
And the funny
time,
thing
San
is, the
Francisco.
Final Frontier was written by the same person who wrote Wrath of Khan.
And the person when they're trying to get directions to the nuclear vessel, like that's some time. I love that. Whoopsie Doodle put best Toy Story 2, worst Cars 2. Attitude Era Wrestling said Grease 2. Rad Dad Gamer best Empire Strikes Back, worst RoboCop 2.
I've not seen RoboCop 2.
Yeah, RoboCop 2, directed by Irvin Kershner, who also did Empire Strikes Back, misses all of the satire that Paul Verhoeven, like, it's just mean and violent, and it tries to do the satire but doesn't do it correctly. I would say RoboCop 3 is far worse. Ron Burgess put The Godfather Part 2. This is the best. The worst is difficult. I've never made it all the way through Caddyshack 2. When I saw it, wasn't that great. I remember being most disappointed by Kick-Ass 2 in theaters. I didn't. I liked the first Kick-Ass, and I remember
I don't think I saw Kick-Ass 2.
It's not great.
But
Jim
I like
Carrey's
Kick-Ass.
in it, and spoiler alert, he's not in it for long. And you're like, damn it, you would have wished to have seen a movie with him a little bit longer in it.
Yeah.
Dave Shep put T2 Aliens. Worst, the Saturday Night Fever one. He's referring to Staying Alive. All right. David Wright put best sequel, Avengers Endgame. Worst sequel, Blues Brothers 2000. All right. Surely You Can't Be Serious put The Empire Strikes Back is the best. The worst sequel, The Last Jedi. You know, I have flip-flopped on The Last Jedi 100 times. I love it one day. The other day, I'm like, how did this ever get made? I keep flip-flopping.
No, it's not the worst. I guarantee. No.
Jordan Pride said, you, my friend, have forgotten about the most of the Transformers movies. Okay, I guess he was replying.
I went through the
okay.
whole Revenge of the Fallen.
He was
and all
replying
this
to
stuff.
this one. Okay, so he was replying to defending your movie. He said, trying to avoid the most common answer here, best Terminator 2, worst Resident Evil Retribution. I haven't seen that. Workaholic put best Godfather Part 2, worst Bloodsport Part 2, which I have never seen.
It's been, if I have seen it, it's been that
4
long.
or 5 of them. Drugs Party in 526 said the best Dark Knight, worst Halloween 2 2009, the Rob Zombie one.
No, it doesn't count. It's a remake.
People have there's some strong defenders of that film. I've only seen it once.
I'm not I'm indifferent to it, but it's a remake, and to me, it doesn't count.
Dr. Pop Culture BGSU said best Godfather 2, worst Godfather 3.
No.
Okay. Carl, who is at Listening to Film, said off the top of my head and in my honest opinion, best from the perspective of somehow bettering a great movie, The Empire Strikes Back. Worse, when the original is so good, RoboCop 2. Let's see. TSPN said Ace Ventura 2. Okay.
When Nature Calls, it was not great, but it was not the worst.
Jason R. Lady Author said best T2, worst Speed 2.
Yep.
Sean McGurr said Aliens 2 or T2 among my favorites. Caddyshack 2, Fletch 2, Jewel of the Nile. Hey, somebody's
Jewel of the Nile.
Hey, I agree with you on that one. The Hustle Podcast said the best Godfather 2, Paddington 2, and Before Sunset. Largo Guy, best Star Trek First Contact, worst Smokey and the Bandit Part 2. I'm going to slightly agree with you. Smokey and the Bandit Part 3 is far
Part
worse.
3 is
far
the
worse.
worst. Yeah.
Some people are just right now learning. There's a part 3.
There's a part 3?
It's not good.
Nope, that was the worst one.
Phil Payne said the best Godfather Part 2. Big Daddy said the Empire Strikes Back for the best. Worst, Star Trek 5, Final Frontier.
Yep.
Kurt Biz said Aliens, and worst is Blues Brothers 2000. Michael Derry, best sequel, Addams Family Values.
It's actually a really good sequel.
I've heard. I've never seen it. I've heard that.
Good call.
Carlo said the best Godfather 2, worst Speed 2. All right. RT Masso, Godfather 2 the best, Godfather 3 the worst. Let's see. Retro Coach Taz says best sequel T2. A lot of, we're getting, there's some standouts here, ones that are always going to make the list. Best sequel Terminator 2, Judgment Day. Let's see. Worst sequel Speed 2. Okay. Ken Bray, best Terminator 2, worst Grease 2. So Wizard Podcast, best The Empire Strikes Back, worst Independence Day Returgence. I like that.
Good job.
Andre says Protect, best Empire Strikes Back, worst The Legend of Zero. Kevin Brennan, worst is Speed 2, Cruise Control. Top 10 of anything says best Empire Strikes Back. Brian Brown, he said best is clearly, easily, and obviously Godfather Part 2. Worst is Hot Take, Back to the Future Part 2.
Shut up.
Yeah.
You don't know. That's one of the best.
All right. Let's
It's
see.
my top 20 best.
www.forenseek.app said best is Punisher 3, 2005.
Have not seen it.
I'm a little confused because the first Punisher movie came out in 89 with 90 with Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, it must be the ones
Okay.
with...
and then Thomas Jane Punisher
Jane
was
was
2004. That was with him and John. And then I don't know when Punisher Warzone. That's the one that's directed by Lexi Alexander. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was 2000. I don't know. Okay,
It's been a Netflix version.
Chris Houghton put best Aliens worst ? Truth is Scarier, best Godfather 2, worst ID 2. Let's see. Adam Michael put best Back to the Future Part 2, worst Superman 4 Quest for Peace.
So I will say this.
Okay.
Superman the original, I am not a fan of. I loved it when I was a kid. Rewatching it, it's freaking stupid.
Takes a while to get going.
It takes a while to get going, and then you're like, oh, he's just going to spin around the world backwards that many times, and everything's going to go reverse in time. And then every sequel after that has been horrible. Sorry, I hate Superman.
I kind of like the first Superman a lot.
I loved it when I was a kid. Nostalgia, but
Wayne A. Elderkin said best Godfather 2, Dark Knight, Back to the Future 2, worst Freddy's Revenge, Jaws the Revenge, and Halloween 3.
Whoa. Okay, so Halloween 3, yeah, I'll give you that. But like you said, it's kind of a standalone. So
I think
it sucks though.
I think Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge is kind of secretly a masterpiece.
I love that. But
I think I didn't always feel that way, but going back and
I can't remember if
revisiting
it's 4 or 5, they're just like
well, 1 is a classic, 2 is way better than I think a lot of people give. 2 is I think the scariest of all of them.
Yeah.
It's the one that terrifies me the most. That's interesting. Let's see here. The Amazing Maine podcast said best. Let's see. I agree. Aliens worst. All the other sequels, prequels to Alien, and Blues Brothers 2000. Let's see. The God of Pod says Empire Strikes Back is the best. Worst, The Next Karate Kid. There's one that made your honorable mentions or your list.
that's on one.
Okay. Adam Kuch said best sequel Star Trek 2. Worst is Home Alone 2. I don't hate Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 3, yes, I'll give you that.
Vintage Everything says worst Halloween 3. Don't have a best. Okay, that's good. Songs Gone Wrong comes back and says D2 Mighty Ducks 2 is amazing. I think Desperado is technically a sequel. It is. It's a sequel to El Mariachi.
I'll tell you, I almost had Once Upon a Time in Mexico on my worst list, too.
Yeah, that's not great. Love that movie. He said worst is Halloween Town 2, which I haven't seen Halloween Town 1. So New World Pictures says Hellraiser 2 Hellbound is the best sequel, but Hellraiser Revelations is probably the worst. We're just talking about Hellraisers, right? Question mark.
I will give the Hellraiser 2 was better than Hellraiser.
I watched the first part of the
gory
first Hellraiser, and I was like, I'm out.
Yep.
Incessant Pod says, best Step Up 2? Worst? How Long Do You Have? Caddyshack 2, Son of the Mask, Space Jam, New Legacy, Teen Wolf 2, and so many more. I can't
there's
agree
a ton
with
of
that.
bad ones there,
Let's see. The top 10 of anything also says worst. That is a picture of Terminator Genesis. BK on the Air says best Empire Strikes Back, worst Caddyshack 2. What Do You Mean says best sequel Star Trek 2. Worst is Mary Poppins Returns.
With Julie Andrews?
No, that's with that one just came out a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Mary Poppins Returns.
Oh, is that the one with Emily Blunt?
Yes.
Oh, I've not seen that.
J.W. Caldwell, the movie, says best Aliens, Lethal Weapon 2, Batman Returns, Last Crusade, Superman 2. Worst, Aliens 3, Beverly Hills Cop 3, Another 48 Hours. Blasphemy. I love Another 48 Hours.
I love Aliens 3. I'm sorry.
The Matrix Revolution, Superman 3, and Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. Okay? I'm a big fan of Another 48 Hours. I really dig that movie. Zoe Vaughn says Aliens. Game for a Movie says Mortal Kombat Annihilation. I Will Die on This Hill is the best sequel.
It's a terrible sequel.
Somebody bring this person some water. They're going to be up there for a while.
Well, let me rephrase that. It's not a terrible sequel, but don't die on that.
Yeah, don't die on that.
Find another one.
Yeah, there's other films you can defend. It says worst Speed 2 Cruise Control. I'm going to be honest with you. Game for a Movie Pod. I would rather watch Speed 2 Cruise Control than Mortal Kombat Annihilation. But we listen. Everybody has their own opinion. But you don't have to die on that hill, buddy. We'll bring you down.
We should just name this episode IMHO.
Piecing It Together Pod says best Evil Dead 2, worst Cloverfield Paradox. Okay. Sodomus Huxley, Aliens is the best, both respects, and radically departs from the original. In a way, the perfect sequel. Yeah, I agree. Sean Nielhoff says best The Dark Knight, worst Superman 4. Past and future guest Bill Searcy says Die Hard 2, good. Caddyshack 2, bad. Okay. Handsome Dan Lopez says worst has to be Blues Brothers 2000. I've never seen it. Let's see. Daniel says best probably Aliens, although I still love Alien. And worst is probably Deep Blue Sea 2.
They made a second one?
They made a third one.
Oh.
Okay. Let's see. This one is Kevin, a Man with No Show, says best of Star Trek 2. I got to be honest with you. Star Trek 2 has popped on here a lot.
Yeah, that's why I was on my, really close to making it.
So many to choose from. Anchorman 2. Let's see. Baron of Grey Matter. Any sequel to The Highlander? He said there should have been only one.
Should have been only one. Yes.
Let's see. When Harry Met Movie says best Paddington 2, Aliens T2, worst Highlander 2. Taking all that made the first great and throwing it out the window. All right, well, let's see. We're running out of time. I'm going to do a couple more here. If I missed everybody here, I apologize. Asher says best Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, worst Seed of Chucky. Let's see here. Evil Ed says Friday 13th Part 3. Yeah, I agree. Highlander 2. Let's see. Kerplop says, I have to say I'm really looking forward to confirming, condemning, and consoling this group after our podcast this coming Sunday. Super psyched to see how the comments turn out.
That was me.
That was you, yes. All right. I'm going to do two more, okay? Let's see. Declan Fanning says, best The Descent 2, Wreck 2, Ring 2. There's a theme going on there. He said, worst is Police Academy 7, Mission to Moscow. Even Claire Forlani, Ron Perlman, and Christopher Lee couldn't save it. He's right.
I haven't even...
It's awful. Let's see. Daniel Folk says, best comedy sequel is a three-way between Very Brady sequel, and Addams Family Values, and Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Gary Plant, I don't think it's the worst sequel, but Ghostbusters 2 might be the most disappointing. Exactly the same cast, writers, and director, and a complete miss of a film. Making films is tricky.
Yeah. I almost had Ghostbusters 2 on my list, but I started thinking, like, Statue of Liberty comes to life.
Yeah.
And there's this slime, and then I was like, There's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Got a great
on there.
soundtrack by
There's
Bobby. Bobby Brown's got a great song on there. So, all right, everybody. I'm sorry I didn't get to all of them. We're desperately running out of time at this point. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening. Jason, thank you as always for being on the
Absolutely.
show.
Appreciate
and
being here.
And this was a fun episode to do. And we're going to be back real soon with some more episodes and some more fun. All right, guys. Thank you.